Hey guys, gals, and MBs. I'm here today with the Teo-5, and this is going to be an interesting video, kind of like a farewell song to the Teo-5 and the Take-5. I have kind of made the decision that the Take-5 and the Teo-5 are just a little too little for me, actually. I need to really focus my collection on very specific synths to do the music that I'm doing, especially with the ambient stuff that I really want to get back into and actually release some albums coming up soon and some actual music on streaming platforms and just platforms in general. So I want to decomplicate things. I only have so much time. This is kind of a hobby, so I do this after work. I mean, I'm doing it today after work. So I need to focus my collection. And one thing that I've realized, the multi-poly, I've been playing with that off camera quite a bit. It's kind of sad, but it's kind of taken the niche of both the Take-5 and the Teo-5. I know people are going to roll their eyes, and there'll be that one person that's like, oh, but that doesn't have analog filters. It's totally different. No, it's not. It does the sounds I need plus more. If anything, I could go for a multi-poly and a multi-poly module if I needed more voices, but I can just live with the multi-poly at this point for all that kind of stuff for vintage sounds. But that said, I'm going to put the money towards a flagship synth at this point. I really want to get one. I think I'm to the point in my music career where I can actually make very good music, and and I just want to get a flagship synth at this point. So I kind of have a short list. I'm looking at the Arteria Polybrute 12, the third wave, or one of the Udo synths. So I'm thinking those all kind of have the sounds that I want. The third wave is kind of a hit or miss for me. The only reason that's a hit or a miss for me at this point is because I need to know, it doesn't make clear sense on the website or any information about it. Is that a filter per voice, or does it just have one overall filter and it's technically paraphonic when you're going through the analog filter? Because if that's the case, I don't want it. But yeah, I like the sound of the Polybrute. Like I said, I also have to make room for something that massive, so I really do like the sound of the Polybrute a lot, and even the built-in effects sound pretty good. What's the build quality on that, if anybody can let me know? But yeah, I'll do a bunch of research before I get one. I know the Udo synths are built very, very well, and they definitely have the sound that I want and the interface that I want, especially since I'm going to be using external effects still. My effects change isn't going to change. I kind of like what I have right now. I may get a Generation Loss Mark II again down the line because it just, the Chroma console didn't do it. Well, that said, since this is kind of the farewell song to both the Take-5 and the Teo-5, let's get into making one of the most beautiful patches that I think I've made on the Teo-5 and one of the most beautiful patches I've heard. So the first thing you're going to want to do for this is you're going to make sure that the synth is fully tuned and temperature stable. Give it 30 minutes, make sure it's tuned, go through the tuning procedure. It's very important because we're going to be using sync and the X mod, so basically the through 0 FM. So let's go ahead and start an init patch. And the first thing that we're going to do is get the oscillators the way we want it. So to get the oscillators the way we want it, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on the second oscillator. And I'm looking at my notes here. And what we want to do is on the second oscillator, we want the square and the saw. And on the first one, we just want the square wave. So we're going to go like that. It's going to sound like this. Let's turn on sync. And let's turn the second frequency to a D. So right around there, that's a D. And now since we have sync on, frequency 2 is basically our root frequency. And this kind of you'll hear. That's what we're syncing with. So we want to have this at E2 plus 2. E plus 2. There we go. And you think, hey, this doesn't sound all that great, but you're wrong, it will. So let's turn up the X mod. We want to turn the X mod to around here. And we want to turn the pulse width. I wish, this is another thing, the gripe, the interface. And it's like, as much as I love sequential, they're just not open to ideas and fixing things, even if you tell them. It's just, so there's no values being shown on the display. So let's change the pulse width to right around here. We want to turn it all the way almost to the right, like so. Right. All right, and we have the basic sound that is going to turn into something magnificent in a second here. But first, we need to go ahead and change the, make sure the attack is down on both the envelopes, the one for your filter and the one for your amplifier. Turn off the cutoff so you get nothing. And let's start shaping that. So what we want to do with the amp, let's actually turn on a little bit of the filter envelope right around here. All right, let's add some release to the amp envelope and some release to, there we go. See, we're already getting that sound that I was talking about. All right, let's go ahead and shape the decay. We want to turn the decay down on both of them, right around the same amount, like right around there. And then let's change the sustain to around here on both of them. So like here, I'm wiggling them so it picks up the values. Just checking my levels here. It's going to be a little low, so I'll talk a little quieter over this. But we kind of have the bass sound that I'm going for. Isn't it gorgeous? That's what I said. It's like the most beautiful sound. We can change it a little. Let's add a little resonance so it gets a little peaky. Mess with the X mod a little. Change the sustain a little. And that's the basic sound. And I think it's probably one of the most gorgeous sounds I've heard out of the Teo-5 ever. We're not done yet. We're going to add some stuff to it. So what we want to do is we want to go into the poly section, and we're going to use oscillator 2 to detune. So basically, the second oscillator is where our frequency is going to be set for like standard frequency. Otherwise, you'll just hear kind of like that stereotypical oscillator sync sound. So we're just going to use oscillator 2 detune, which only detunes the second oscillator by a minuscule amount. We want to have the amount set to fairly low, about 30, 35. And the frequency should be down pretty low, maybe right around here. Like I said, I wish there were values that showed up. There we go. Maybe a little less. Let's do my favorite thing and go over here to the mod matrix and add some pan spread, shall we? Whatever new synth I want to get needs to have some kind of stereo VCA action going too, and I know the Polybrute 12 even has a knob for that, so it's kind of my runner-up. That's such an expensive synth, but at this point, you know, with the way the world's going, and yeah, I mean, might as well just go all in on the music thing to get my mind off of how shitty everything else is. So, panning. Like I said, I hope I said that earlier, I'm not getting out of music. I just want to try something new, and I only have so many synths that I can have the brain power for. So the multi-polys kind of become it for the analog emulations, the old school analog emulations. Obviously, the polybrute 12 would be a new take on everything. I almost thought about getting something like just going with a flagship sequential synth, but you know, I've been there, done that. I was gonna get an OB XA or whatever, but I don't want to copy Devin over with his music project miles away. So former name at least for that, but. Yeah, see, like I said. And you can play with the pulse width a little. It does a lot. Listen. We can make it a little softer by making the pulse smaller, and harsher by making it larger. We could use delay, but I like to use some chorus on this specific patch, and it'll bring it alive. The chorus is actually really nice on here, so we want the time around here. We want the depth right around here. And this is a tone control. We want it to be a little dark, but not too dark, so like this. I will be making quite a bit of video content on the multi-poly. It's a more affordable synth than this, and I think it is infinitely more powerful, and it sounds just as good. I know people will not believe me on that, but I've already made video content. That video where I did the comparison it really made me sad for having a Take-5 and Teo-5 at this point, but these are still magical because the filter does sound very unique, especially when you ping it and get it all the way, the resonance all the way up, and then, you know, track it. It does sound very unique, something that the multi-poly can't do. Maybe not. Adding a little more sustain. There we go. And as you see up here, we have the dig. And I just think a sound like this, which has this like almost 80s-esque nostalgia and beauty to it, that we need a delay that can properly take that. I was going to use a tape delay, but let's use the dig. And the settings here is what you have going. I have it in ping pong mode. And this is going to sound really good. It's in 12-bit light modulation. Got a little vintage to it too. Let's turn the vintage up halfway. This is kind of a new sound that I'm going to kind of use as a benchmark sound for synths. This beautiful, nostalgic, warbly. Plucked sound. I think it's gorgeous. You can let me know what you think, but I think I pulled off the best sound that I could personally make on this synth. I'm going to try to get a sound exactly like that on the multi-poly, and the other synth that I'm definitely not getting rid of is the Summit. The Summit always brings me joy. Other than the key bed not being as nice as this, but I will say the aftertouch works a little nicer on that though. Listen to those lower notes. Yeah. All right. Well, that is kind of my farewell song to the Teo-5. Yeah. I mean, I'm not too sad about it. I'm not actually sad about it at all. I'm looking forward to getting something like one of the other flagship synths out there. I said in my tips video, and I'm really taking it to heart, that you really should minimize your synth collection and get really good at just a few synths. So far, the wave state is staying, the op6 is staying, the MPC is obviously staying because that is just irreplaceable. That's one of the synths I kept even through my whole ordeal with getting out of the whole hardware music thing. It's just something, it's lovely. The multi-poly, obviously, and the Summit. Not to mention that I did re-solidify the pre-order for the steam pipe, so that'll be fun. I want a hardware modeling, like a physical modeling synth. It's just too cool. This sound in particular, I got very close to on the multi-poly, and I think I kind of exceeded what this can do with this specific sound, and this is kind of the sound that I want. It's a very, like I said, melancholy, very nostalgic sound. Would I still recommend people get the Teo-5? Absolutely. If it is going to be your only analog synth in a setup, get the Teo-5. I can't really think of a sub $2,000 purely analog. Well, it's not purely analog, but sub $2,000 analog synth I would rather have more, just because I really like the Obi sound, the Oberheim sound. Yeah, so I'm just kind of rambling at this point, but yeah, still 100% recommended. If you like the Prophet sound more, obviously go for the Take-5. But if you're limited on time and cash and you just want one synth that can really take both things very well, and you don't care if it's analog, you're not going to tell in a mix. I mean, there will be people that'll tell you, but they won't be listening to your music for the music. So I highly recommend the multi-poly over anything at this point now, if you want the nostalgic sounds of synths of past. It also has a very complex mod matrix, which this does too, but multi-poly also comes with a free software editor. That's one thing that Sequential really missed out on. They really should have released a free software editor versus you having to pay with that one company like $100 for an editor. All right, well, yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and if you like my content and you want to see what I do in the future, especially with multi-poly and the Summit, I'll be focusing a lot more on the Summit and Peak sounds. I really just want to focus on the Summit, but I'll make some patches that will work on the Peak. The 2 layering. Also, one thing I did have to mention about this, another reason that these are going, not just because I want something a little more, I need the more voices. I always run into voice stealing. I thought 5 voices would be enough, but 8 is like my bare minimum at this point now. Especially for what I'm doing. This pluck patch will voice steal like crazy. It's not too noticeable on a delay, but yeah, a lot of things I like to do because I like to play a triad at the very minimum on certain like sustain patches, and then, you know. Yeah, so that's already kind of like you're asking for the voice stealing, but yeah. All right, yeah, again, I'm going to quit the video now. I hope you found this entertaining, and I will see you next time. Have a good one. Bye.